You're listening to Three Kitchens podcast, hosted by your favorite home cooks, Erin Walker and Heather Dyer. Join us for inspiration and a new recipe every Tuesday.
Hello and welcome, all you lovely listeners. I'm Erin, and I'm joined by Heather, and we are Three Kitchens Podcast. I don't know. Heather's just looking at me silently here. Thanks. Give me some reassurance here.
Sorry. Well,
you can say, yeah,
I
we are.
reassure you, yes, we are Three Kitchens Podcast.
I'm in the right
Heather.
spot, right?
You are, Erin, in case you were unsure of yourself and your name.
Could be at this point.
We're going to get into some food, but for listeners who've been around with us for a little while, we were just musing about how we're in year 3 now. So if you've been around for a while, you know, in the beginning, we had this thing somebody would tell like a little story from food news kind of in the world.
Okay.
I saw this story recently, actually a while ago, and I thought, I need to tell Erin and our listeners about it because it's funny. And maybe someone who lives near here knows about it and can tell us more. But there's a place I'm pretty sure it's in Great Britain, a place called Cooper's Hill.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's in England. And they have an annual competition where they roll a very large wheel of cheese. Like, I'm talking like wagon wheel size.
Man-sized
like
cheese.
Very large cheese. They send it down the hill and people run after it to try to be the first to catch it. Have you heard of this? You're looking like, yes, of course.
This is totally acceptable. Yeah.
Okay, totally acceptable. Well, this year, the winner was a woman named Delaney Irving, a 19-year-old from Canada.
Good for her.
She made it to the bottom of the hill the fastest. But in the process, she concussed herself when she face planted at the finish line.
Oh, no.
She got knocked out. She was unconscious for a period of time, but then apparently she said it was all worth it because she won.
Don't you get to take home the cheese? Isn't that the prize? The first one down gets the cheese.
That's a good question. I assume you win the cheese. I don't even know what kind of cheese it was. This is like the worst article. When I saw it the first time around, it had all the details. But anyway, I just thought and I saw a video. It's like this giant cheese and all these people like scrambling down this steep bumpy hill because the cheese then goes, it doesn't go in a straight line, right? It goes all over the place and people are chasing it and this poor woman does a header and knocks herself out.
Well, at least the cheese didn't hit her. Could you imagine? That thing would flatten you.
If that thing rolled after you, yeah, it's probably quite heavy.
Yeah, I would imagine. It's got some good momentum going down that hill.
Yeah. It looked like it was going very fast. What a ridiculous thing. People do ridiculous things.
I like these nonsensical, silly things that we turn into traditions.
The world is serious enough. Let's enjoy all the cheese traditions because why not? And who doesn't love cheese?
All right. Well, this is a not cheese related recipe that I'll be segueing into here.
Wouldn't it be great if it were cheese? I don't even know what you're going to be talking about, but it would have bbeen fantastic if it was cheese.
Sometimes it works out.
I know.
Today I am talking about Café de Olla.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's not really related to cheese.
We got nothing here.
No.
Which is a Mexican spiced coffee. And so this Café de Olla is coffee that is made in a clay pot. So it translates as coffee of the pot. And so it was traditionally or originally prepared in a large clay pot. And this originated in the early 1900s during the Mexican Revolution.
Oh, I was thinking it would be something far older.
Right?
Yeah.
So, not all that old.
And is it one of those things that arose because of necessity?
I'm thinking so, yeah.
And they had to find a way to make coffee.
So they didn't have their, coffee pots plugged in on the road as they,
Right.
Did things even plug in at that time? Come on, Erin. It's the early 1900s. So they were mass producing these large vats of coffee to keep everyone awake at night.
Wow, it's so wholesome, Like, I was just thinking about when you said keep everyone awake. I was thinking about like World War II and all how all the Nazis were on like methamphetamines or something. They had like speed to keep
Right?
them
Yeah.
awake for days and days and days. Well, how nice that these Mexican revolutionaries had coffee. So much healthier.
They've got this great coffee that was in this clay pot. So you have got a big pot of hot water, you've got sugar in there, and then they also added in cinnamon and cloves and star anise. Sometimes there's orange peels in there to give it flavor, and just freshly ground coffee. And so they would just make these big containers of this and then serve it up sort of ladle style.
Mm.
And that's what kept everyone going. And now it's just one of those recipes that has been passed on from your grandma to your mom, and everyone kind of has their own way of doing it. And we are going to try it.
Okay, I have one more question that
Yeah.
maybe your research didn't tell you.
Let's see if my incomplete research can give us the
Well,
answer.
sometimes the answers are just not to be found. But
Well, yeah.
so when they were making these big pots of coffee
Hmm.
during the revolution, where did all the spices come from? Are these things that were growing there, or did they have to source them and bring them along? Or not
That's
sure.
a good question. I'm not sure. Anyway, so we're gonna have some Mexican spice coffee, and I
Mm.
figure we've done this whole exploration into tea and learning about tea. We're gonna learn nothing about coffee, but we're gonna enjoy some spiced coffee. So our children have attended a bilingual Spanish program, and they had this spiced Mexican hot chocolate,
Mhm.
and it is really tasty. And I thought there's got to be a grown-up version of this, and there is. Mexican spiced coffee.
I have had this coffee in Mexico
Ooh.
when I've been to Mexico a few times.
Okay.
And when I enjoyed it the most in my experience was
Okay.
we'd gone to the, I don't know what exactly you call it. It's like an outdoor adventure park kind of thing.
Mm.
And when you're kind of wet from being in the water, so we went to like one of the restaurants where there's a buffet, and we had our lunch, and there was at the end of the buffet, there's a big clay pot. And I walk up there and I'm like, oh, this is what I've been smelling. When I walked in there, I was like, okay, I need to eat lunch here because something here is calling my name. And it was this big pot of the spiced coffee because I was kind of chilly from being out in the water. And I was like sitting there in my wet swimsuit, like, having lunch. And that was the best coffee ever just because of the experience and the situation. And it was hot and I was kind of cold. And then I came home and I was trying to reproduce it, but I didn't actually do any of the research. I just kind of tried to make it up in my kitchen. I didn't ever really succeed. So I'm so excited for you to make a proper cup of this for me.
Well, thanks for putting a load on me.
Oh, it won't be the ambiance, but I bet it'll be just as delicious.
So if I come and dump a bucket of water on you and then hand you a cup of coffee,
spray me with the garden hose. I was gonna say, I'm just uncomfortable and cold.
Or you can also enjoy this as a nice warm beverage as the weather starts to cool. All these flavors and thoughts make me think of a nice fall coffee.
Mm-hmm. Kind of Christmassy too. You could serve it at Christmas.
You got some Christmassy flavors in here. I think it's going to be something tasty. All right, so I can't just serve you coffee.
Oh, well, you could. I could already really excited about it.
I could spray you with a hose and serve you coffee, but that would seem somewhat incomplete. So the recipes that I was looking up for this said that this is often served with churros. And I thought, oh, yes, yum. Please. Who doesn't love a good churro? And that's when I started going down the rabbit hole of where did churros come from?
Oh, no.
There are a lot of discussions about where churros come. I thought they were a Mexican food.
Oh, I would have guessed Spanish.
But hold on a sec. Where did they come from in Spain?
Does everybody want to lay claim to them?
Everybody's laying claim to this. Yeah. So there's some talk about, they're traditionally Spanish because the shepherds who used to be in the hills would fry this dough up, and they called it churros because there is a sheep whose horns have these ridges on them, and that's where the name comes from.
Does churro mean sheep?
There's a churra species of sheep, And
Oh,
so
okay.
because they've got this ridged pattern,
I'd buy it. I'm thinking this
that
theory
sounds
seems
good.
kind of legit.
But the Portuguese were also in China, and there is a fried dough in China that they use as a breakfast item, and it's spelled Youtiao. It is a fried donut dough that the Portuguese sort of brought back with them, and they say, no, 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 this is where this idea of churros came from. The Spanish brought it over to South America in the 1500s. So we do know when it ended up over in South America.
Okay, I see. Can I also tell you a story about the first time I had churros?
Please tell me a churro story.
Does everybody want to know all my stories today?
Yes.
Well, I was in Spain, and that's why I thought it was a Spanish thing.
Okay.
I think in Madrid, in the evening, on one of those busy touristy streets where there's, picture lanterns and music and like people all hanging out on patios, outside up on the sidewalks and strolling around and chatting and having dinner, late dinner. And I went to this like cafe that had churros con chocolate, which is like churros dipped in the thickest. It's something between it's a drinking chocolate, but it's so thick that you can dip your churros into it. It's somewhere between a drink and a pudding almost.
Yeah. Yeah,
And you
exactly.
dip it in, and it was the most delicious thing. It's like when you go to France and you have a crepe and you're like, oh, this is the most delicious thing ever. Yeah.
Well, I had some pretty excellent churros that were fried up at a subway station in New York. There was a lady that had this little cart. She was making churros. Oh, God, they were so hot you couldn't eat them at first. Served in a greasy paper bag.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Just cinnamon and sugar. I didn't have any of the chocolate, but yeah.
I love that it's like the setting and the time you're in a new city and you're on holiday and you're like experiencing something different. And anytime they're like fresh out of the fryer, they're going to be delicious. Oh, I just realized you're taking on frying.
Oh, no.
Oh, continue.
So now that we've really muddled where do churros come from, I'm going to muddle it more because I found a baked churro recipe that is like a French choux pastry.
Choux pastry is not too difficult. If I can do it, anybody can do it. It was a gougere, but I kept pronouncing it wrong in our episode about it.
That's right.
Was it always a choux pastry for a churro?
The very basic recipe is just a fried dough.
So like a donut.
Very much a donut type deal. We know how I feel about frying. Don't worry. I have found a way around it. So I'm going to make a choux pastry. It is going to be baked on a sheet. So you've got this baked churro. You're going to brush it with melted butter and roll in cinnamon and sugar. And then you're going to serve it.
Oh, so that's how you get the spice to stick.
Yes.
It's the butter, because normally when you come out of the fryer, it's easy to get sugar and cinnamon to stick to something, right? Oh, this is interesting.
So we're just going to go all the way around the world and combine everything. We've got spices from the East. We've got cooking techniques from the French. I'm including everybody.
True multicultural recipe.
And I'm making this up in the Great White North.
Well, I mean, that's Canada for you, right?
Exactly.
We take things from every place.
And isn't it amazing how we can get all these ingredients like outside our doorstep? Sometimes it blows my mind, the access that we have to things. And just like how lucky we are.
Yeah, we take it for granted, but when you really think about,
right?
I can't wait for this. This is going to be a delicious treat that already brings back so many memories for me. I'm really
We'll see if we can work this out and make it taste good. We want this nice crispy outside, soft fluffy interior, and we want this delicious coffee to go with it. I love the idea of this spiced coffee. If I didn't know better, I would have called it chai coffee. But now I know that chai means tea, not spice.
Yes, it's similar. If you're trying to picture this in your mind, you could say that it is the coffee equivalent of like a spice chai tea.
Oh, you did it. You said it. You said it. Hey listeners, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If you're a fan of zhuzhed up coffees, check out our recipe for Dalgona iced coffee on our website, www.threekitchenspodcast.com. It's another easy way to transform your cup of joe into something special. You can find a link to this and the recipes we talk about today in our show notes. Now, back to the episode. So, Café de Olla and baked churros.
Where to start? Oh, such a win. Are we starting with reviews? Yum, 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 yum. I saved some of those churros and shared with the family. And then later on, the kids were like, "Are there any more of those churros? Do you have any more hiding somewhere?" I'm like, "No, I promise I don't." They loved them. We all loved them so much.
Oh, good.
And I drank the whole thermos.
Oh, you did drink the whole thermos.
I sure did.
Okay, excellent. So the churros were easy to make. So I'm happy to share that they turned out as crispy as I would like a churro to be. Let's talk about the churro recipe. You've got water, butter, salt, vanilla, and brown sugar that you're going to put into a saucepan and just heat and melt until it starts to boil. And then once it starts to boil, you can turn your burner off and add in your flour. And you want to mix all that flour in until it starts to pull away from the sides and it forms like a greasy dough at that point. And then if you're cooking on a electric stovetop like I am, an older coil stove, remember that the temperature in your burner doesn't instantly turn off, and you should probably move your pan off onto like a heat-proof surface, just so that when you go to stir in your eggs, they don't start cooking. Because the first one that I popped in, I started seeing it cook a bit and I was like, "Oh no, move it off."
Okay.
But then you stir in your 3 medium eggs into this one at a time. And so you just kind of fold it in to your batter, and then boom, you have your churro batter.
I remember this about making choux pastry, where I was saying, like, I don't understand the instructions where I have a ball of dough and now I'm stirring an egg into it. How does that work? But it does. It seems a little odd at first, but if you just keep mixing it, it will go.
That's what they say. And it worked. And so then this dough was popped into a piping bag, and I even had the piping tip that was recommended in the recipe. That like never happens.
Yeah, no kidding. What number was it?
It was a number 1M Wilton tip. It's like a big star-shaped guy.
Yeah, I don't think I have that one. If I make them, I'll borrow it from you.
There you go. I have the tip. Pop it in the piping bag. It was easy to pipe out. If you wanted to, you could maybe make like shapes with it. Like I saw some that are kind of like U-shaped. If you want like a bigger, longer churro, you can make really long ones. Like you can totally have fun with this part. I didn't play with them at all. I piped them out into like 6 to 8 inch sticks and called it good. Before they go in the oven, so while you're piping those churros, you want to put your kettle on and boil some water, and then you put it into a baking dish or something that goes underneath your baking pan so that it keeps your oven moist and will help crisp up the outside of your pastry as it bakes in the oven, because you want that crispiness that you would normally get from frying, but since we're not frying it, you increase the humidity in your oven by putting that boiling water in there while they cook, and it helps crisp up that outside.
I have always found this to be so confusing because it sounds wrong.
It does sound wrong.
Moisture should not produce crisp. You know what I mean? It is so weird.
If you want a crispy bread, you have to have that moist air on the outside. It's a funny thing, isn't it?
So weird. Seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, and we did that too when we made sourdough with Larry. He had the same recommendation for getting that nice crispy crust on the outside. All right, so once these came out of the oven, I did not brush on any extra any extra butter, because they were bubbly and buttery already. So I was like, I don't need to put extra butter on this. You could if you needed to. I just tossed them into the cinnamon sugar mixture I had and then put them back on the tray to cool. It was so easy.
And it worked. Like they had the same texture and the same like sugary cinnamon coating on them that you would expect from them having been deep fried, I thought. But they weren't greasy.
No, but they also had that like deep fried flavor to them.
They kind of did.
Which was kind of strange.
It's so good. It's such a great option because It's less messy.
Because you don't have to deep fry. It is the
Yes.
greatest option.
And oil is so expensive, and
Yeah.
it's so nice that you can just pop them in the oven. Just keep an eye on them, I would think. And
Yeah.
because they are quite small. I'm surprised they took that long to bake, but
This is a great way to bake something that should be fried. I'm really impressed. I wasn't sure if this was going to turn out or not. I was like, you might have some soggy dough coming your way.
or like I almost expected it because it's baked to be a bit more like dough, like bread.
Yes.
You know what? But this was more
Puffy
like
or...
a cookie, like a crispy cookie as opposed to a breadstick. Yeah, it was so great.
Yeah, this was an interesting experiment to see if you could actually make it work in your oven. So, and I think it made 30 churros,
Nice.
all of which are gone. I made them less than 24 hours ago, Heather, and they have cleared them out.
Well, I'm not surprised because they went very quickly in my house too. Okay, I did dip mine in coffee.
Ooh,
Try the combo of the two. I was like, you poor suckers who don't drink coffee. I say to my husband and my children, you poor suckers, you're missing out on this amazing combination of things.
yeah.
Because I loved it together.
It was so good together. So the spiced coffee, again, was quite simple to make.
Mhm.
Now, for the recipe I had, which was from my buenocookbook.com for Mexican spiced coffee, they had a sugar in here called piloncillo. Piloncillo? Anyone guess if I'm saying this right?
Your Spanish is better than mine, but I understand that's what it's called. Piloncillo.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know where to put the accent, and that's usually where I
Yeah.
end up in trouble. It's either piloncillo or piloncillo or piloncillo. All right.
Piloncillo.
Say it with me now. All right. It is a unrefined sugar that usually comes in like little cones. It's a hard sugar. I couldn't find this, / I didn't search too hard for this.
Oh, I wondered if you found it.
I picked up the first hard sugar that I found at the grocery store, which happened. So this sugar that they recommend that I'm not going to pronounce again, because you've already heard me say it 7 ways till Sunday. It is a cane sugar. I found palm sugar that comes in little discs. And so I did a little bit of reading online and was like, yeah, you can use both of them. They both are kind of substitutes for one another if you need to. Or you could use any sugar you like. If you really like honey, they say you can make this with honey. If you just want to use brown sugar, you could use brown sugar in it. So so this was 6 cups of water and it makes 6 servings. Maybe more like 3 if you drink coffee the way that me and possibly Heather do.
I told you I drank my whole thermos.
You drank the whole thermos, so I'm making this assumption out loud for everyone now.
Mhm.
And then 6 to 8 ounces of this sugar. The 4 pieces I had was about 7 ounces, so it was right in the middle. 2 cinnamon sticks, 2 cloves, 1 star anise, and then 6 tablespoons of freshly ground dark roasted coffee. So put all of your water, sugar, and spices in. Boil it, let all your sugar dissolve. It said 5 minutes to infuse everything. In order to get the maximum amount of flavor out of your spices, the longer you let your spices sit into your water sugar mixture, the more flavor you're going to get from them. I liked the flavor in this. I thought it worked out good. And then you add your coffee in, bring it to a boil, turn it off, and then cover it and let it rest for 5 to 10 minutes. Are the instructions. I went for 7 minutes. I kind of went right in the middle of everything, and then strain it into your cup and drink up. The entire time that I was making this, and as soon as I tasted it, I had to know, is this what it tastes like? It is sweet.
It is very sweet. Yes. I maybe should have said that when I was talking about having had it before. It is very sweet. And especially if you don't normally put sugar in your coffee, it's like a woo! I don't either.
The sugar and the caffeine, I was like, whoa!
I know, as I was drinking it, I thought I really shouldn't drink this whole thermos because just the sugar alone, like I'm going to be bouncing off the walls. Yes, it does taste like that. Although I think when I had it before, it wasn't quite as sweet. I imagine it's a personal, probably adjust it to your taste.
Yeah.
And perhaps that special sugar is a little bit different. I mean, who knows, right?
I have no clue. Yeah.
I didn't find it either when I came home from that trip and wanted to make it at home. I did not find the sugar. If you go to the specialty Latin markets, you might find it.
That's what I would assume. I did as little searching as possible because I want to see how accessible it is.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you could play with that, the amount of sugar that you put in there, but do realize that it's intended to be a sweeter coffee. I loved it.
I couldn't believe how good this was. Like I was like, wow, because I always put, as you like to tease, some coffee in my cream when I have it in the morning. And I like my milky coffee. I didn't put any cream in this. I was like, nope, just as is.
Yes, interesting. I don't think it's the kind of coffee you would drink every single morning as your first cup of coffee. Like that sugar is just like, ooh, it's a bit too much. But mid-afternoon, or like I said, if you're kind of want to take the chill off, or you're really tired, like so you just went for a swim or something and you're like, oh, I just want to have like when you think to yourself, oh, I want to have that latte in the afternoon or whatever. This is when this type of coffee, it really hits the spot because it's almost like a dessert.
It really is. When you eat it with the churros, it's like dessert drink plus dessert food.
Yes.
I
loved it together.
The good stuff.
And the churros held up to a little dunk, which, I mean, it's more sugar in sugar, but I enjoyed it. And I appreciate that the churro didn't just like fall apart when I dunked it in my coffee.
Right. Yes.
It was really yummy.
So it recommends you could also put a splash of Kahlua in here. And I was like, oh dear God, that would be too much.
Too much, I think. Yeah.
But I did have extra. So I had my couple cups, you had a couple cups, and I had extra. And I thought, there's no way I'm drinking this right now. So I let it cool and I poured it into my ice cube tray. You could make like an iced coffee if you poured like almond milk in here, or you could just put like your regular coffee in here and cool it down with the sugary cubes and have like I got some iced coffee Café de Olla coming my way.
Dreams of iced Café de Olla. I wonder if they ever serve it that way in Mexico, iced.
I wonder. I can understand how this kept everyone up at night.
It's the sugar. You know, I'm one of those people, caffeine doesn't really affect me. I mean, I have it first thing in the morning. I don't think it wakes me up.
Right.
I've heard that it's the warmth, like when you have a hot drink first thing in the morning, it's the heating your body temperature that wakes you up.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, it's not actually the caffeine in whatever you're drinking that makes you feel more awake. It's the warmth of it.
Yeah.
But the sugar, if you're not used to that much sugar, that might hit you.
Yeah. It's the sugar in there that gets your pants in gear. Holy, like I was just vibrating in my kitchen as I was like doing the dishes, packing the churros.
So what kind of pot did you use? I'm gonna guess you didn't track down some wonderful clay coffee pot.
Sadly, I did not find some wonderful clay coffee pot. This was just done in my stainless steel pot on my stove. Same one for the coffee as the churros. It was the right size pot for both.
Nice.
I think it works good. I think I'm gonna make my coffee like this when I go camping.
Oh.
Because why not? I don't have a great filter, so just boil everything and then add your grounds into your water. Let it sit just like you would a French press. Strain and enjoy. And then I don't have to pack cream.
Yeah, now you know you can.
They also say that you can put a wedge of orange with this, and I think that might be kind of tasty too.
Yes.
An orange peel. Just pop it into the pot when you boil it up and add that like citrusy flavor in there. I think it would be tasty.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
I think this is a good way to kickstart any parent who has to parent all summer long.
And think in the fall when you go for like a walk outside, put that in your thermos.
Yeah.
I love it.
Café de Olla for everyone.
Whew, it worked out.
And now for the fine print. Join us over on the socials. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on our website at threekitchenspodcast.com. Remember, when you like, follow, subscribe, and leave us a review, it helps more people find us. Thank you so much for listening. And if you don't know anything about coffee, I'm sorry, we're not going to tell you anything more about how
We're not
coffee
here
is
to
made.
teach you, okay?
We're not here to teach you about coffee.